Well, 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 guess who's back? It is I, dear friends. I am so happy to be back here with the Damn Nation stateside after being away for a few weeks. And I got to tell you, I missed going live with y'all over the last couple of days. So I am so happy to be back in the seat. But my God, the fuckery of America is on a new level. Whoa. So there is so much news to get into, dear friends, and I'm so happy that you are here with me. So without further ado, welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. Let's get into it. I am back, damnation, and it is so good to be with all of you. I have to tell you, I'm going to do maybe a video towards the end of this week as I get my sea legs back together about my time away. I did do a post on Substack, but I think that it's important to provide just a deeper analysis, but I need to kind of get back in the flow of things. But I tell you that looking at America from a distance just reveals what kind of banana republic we are currently living inside of. And it is wild. It is wild what we have normalized, what mainstream corporate media has normalized, that this behavior of this madman, Donald Trump, and his sycophants and his rising authoritarianism, and the fact that there is a representative in Texas who has been kidnapped by the Republican GOP, because I don't know what else to fucking call it. The fact that Donald Trump is now overtly saying, you know what, slavery, it wasn't that bad, and wanting to literally rewrite history in front of our eyes. Why? Because of this, dear friends, because of this. Because he cannot run far enough away from the Epstein files. And right before I'm getting ready to come on air, as I'm putting together this show, another judge comes out, and the DOJ is now gone 0-3 in requests to unseal Jeffrey Epstein's grand jury materials. Two other federal judges already denied the DOJ's request to publicly release the material. And here's what they say. On Wednesday, today, a federal judge rejected the Justice Department's effort to unseal grand jury transcripts and exhibits in the Jeffrey Epstein case, writing that the government itself is the logical party to make the Epstein files public, and criticizing its motion as a diversion tactic. Quote, the information contained in the Epstein grand jury transcript pales in comparison to the Epstein investigation information and materials in the hands of the Department of Justice, said U.S. District Judge Richard Berman, a Clinton appointee. Berman's decision is the third by a federal judge to deny nearly identical motions by the Justice Department to make public certain grand jury material in the cases of Epstein, the disgraced financier who died by suicide in jail in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges, and his one-time girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was just moved from a maximum security prison where sex traffickers should be to a minimal security facility after conveniently meeting with attorneys from the Department of Justice to ensure that, you don't say anything about Donald Trump and we'll do right by you if you do right by us. Berman's opinion, however, comes as the Justice Department is being forced to disclose the Epstein files through another channel. On Friday, the department is expected to begin turning over Epstein-related records to congressional lawmakers in response to a subpoena from the House Oversight Committee. Now, what's important to understand here is that all the branches of government are run by who? The Republicans. And what is the major source of bipartisan connection right now? The Epstein files. What is it that folks have said that they want to see and understand? The Epstein files. Who was the one that was telling us that we needed to see the Epstein files and they would be released if he was returned to power? Donald Trump. And I continue to say this, dear friends, that if Donald Trump was exonerated in said files, those files would be selling like hotcakes on Truth Social because a grifter gon' grift. And if there was a way for him to make a dime off of the fact that he's free and clear, but let me run you the receipts on all these Democrats that are in the Epstein files, guess what? Donald Trump would be shouting from the rooftop instead of just holding press events up there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the fact of the matter is, he's in the Epstein files. And while we know that everything that he is doing right now is absolute distraction, that doesn't mean that the distractions aren't dangerous. It just means that he is terrified of what the House Oversight Committee is going to find out. Now, mind you, he was already warned back in May that he was in the Epstein files. So everything that he's been doing since that notification has been about distraction from the fact that he palled around with a sex trafficker and a pedophile. And again, I will say this. If those files exonerated Donald Trump would be selling them at premium on his broke down social media platform. But because they do not, he is doing all of these maneuvers to get judges to do X, Y, and Z. When the judge turns around and says, let me tell you something. Berman noted that the Justice Department's 100,000 pages of Epstein material, which it could release at any time, and which are the target of the congressional subpoena, dwarf the roughly 70 pages of grand jury material it asked the judges to unseal. Again, quote from Judge Berman, the government is the logical party to make comprehensive disclosure to the public of the Epstein files. The grand jury testimony is merely a hearsay snippet of Jeffrey Epstein's alleged conduct. End quote. So basically, what the judge has offered up today is, can you stop fucking around with my court? Because I have more important things to do. And you actually have more pertinent information that you can release. And you don't need anybody's permission to do it. But let me just go back to the statement again. He called the government the logical party. And we know that the Republican Party is anything but. Okay? Okay. So where do we go from here? Because Donald Trump clearly needs some type of distraction from this news coming out. So what does he do? Well, racism. It's just his best hits that he keeps bringing out, but nothing seems to be sticking. Trump says Smithsonian focuses too much on how bad slavery was. The remark made as the president has ordered a wide-ranging review of museums exhibits added to his pattern of minimizing Black history. Let me just remind you all real quick. It's one of my favorite quotes. I don't know who to credit it to, but it's something that circulates around on social media often. And it goes something like this. Slavery is white history. How formerly enslaved and generations of Black people survived that is Black history. Let me say that again. Slavery is white history. That is the history of white ancestors and what they did to Black people. How Black people survived slavery is Black history. It's all sliced up in this bigger umbrella called American history. And once again, Donald Trump is trying to what? Rewrite the rules. And I just had a Freudian slip. I said, rewrite the rules. And you know what? Let me just stick with what I said the first time. Okay, so here we go. Here's a picture, and I'm so sorry for y'all that did not get to go to the National Museum of African American History and Culture before, right? Donald Trump got his white racist ass little hands on it, because it is a thing of beauty and it is something to be revered. It is soul shaking to enter into that museum. And where do you enter into it first? You enter in through a slave ship, and then you work your way up. It was a masterpiece, okay? Because that is how American history had risen from the bowels of the slave ship into the light of day. And that is how you would wind your way through this incredibly impressive and beautiful museum. Donald Trump has dismantled it. Right? He has given back pieces of our history so that, in the hopes of doing what? Bringing back white supremacy. Because you see what my friend Jared Yates Sexton has said. The thing about fascism is that they both rewrite the past, the present, and the future at the same time. And that is exactly what Donald Trump's white supremacist fascist regime is doing in real time. The Smithsonian, he says, is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. He goes on to say, the country cannot be woke because woke is broke. We have the hottest country in the world. Let me just stop you right there. The hottest country in the world? What? What? I said this earlier with Waj. The hottest country in the world, is he now trying to fuck Lady Liberty? What are you talking about? Because you sound fucking stupid. Okay? And there is no way for me to mince words around this so that people feel good with my usage of cursing. But there is just nothing else to say here. The hottest country in the world, the man is going after a museum. And how much do you want to bet me that he's never been inside a museum? Because a museum is not like a casino. Right? A museum doesn't offer him anything other than knowledge. And we know that Donald Trump, by virtue of the way that he speaks, is devoid of that. We know that the only reason how he got into college is because his daddy paid off the admissions, right? Like, we know that there is nothing that Donald Trump or his stupid fucking spawn offer up into the universe that would ever give us the impression that they have walked into anybody's museum. So Donald Trump going after history, it's like, my man, like, name something inside of any of the Smithsonians. Tell us the last time that you've been in there. Because if you have gone to the National Museum of History, of African American History and Culture, if you've gone there, then you know that there is an entire wing dedicated to the very success and ambition of a once purposefully marginalized and downtrodden upon and oppressed people, that despite white suppression, despite white nationalism, despite the continuation of the carceral state to continue along with legalized slavery, that the achievements that Black people have made in this country are exactly why you are so fucking unstable, fragile, and insecure. So please, folks, please miss me with his discussion on how bad the country is, because you know nothing about the country. Gun to your head if somebody were to ask you to talk about the Constitution or to give any amendment inside of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, name a president, right, that isn't George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, and give me the order, you'd be shot. But this is the man that is dictating history to the rest of us. This is what 77 million Americans voted for, right? But they're slowly waking up to the reality that Donald Trump didn't give a fuck about you. Donald Trump only gives a fuck about power and white supremacy. And the thing is that if his administration, if this psychotic, sociopathic, white nationalist regime was winning, none of the things that have been happening would be happening, like what took place today. Protesters heckle Vance Hegseth at photo op to thank the National Guard. Trump's deployment of the National Guard troops in Washington continued Wednesday. Protesters booed Vance during a photo op with the guardsmen stationed in the city. The protesters jeered Vance, Defense Secretary Hegseth, and their other white supremacist puppet, Stephen Miller, as they visited Union Station, which is overrun with what? The Shake Shack? Folks, let me tell you something here. I want to play this video because I think that it is just so delicious. Do you understand me? Like, it's something that folks actually need to hear.
Some violent, crazy people who are screaming at kids with a few crazy liberals who are screaming at the vice president. But I think that's a very worthwhile trade to make because we want our people to be able to enjoy our beautiful cities. And the last thing I'll say is to the American people, D.C. is already safer than it was 9 days ago, but we're going to make it safer still to come. This is your city. You should feel free to come and visit here, have a meal, see all these incredible monuments, and actually enjoy yourself. And that's what we're trying to make happen. And I think that if we set a standard in Washington, D.C., that political willpower can bring some common sense, law and order back to these communities, then maybe some other communities and other cities.
You see how he has to strain to be heard because the boos are so loud? Let me play you another angle and another clip because it's fantastic. He wants people to come into Washington, D.C. to enjoy the city that they have destroyed. They're doing checkpoints on 14th Street and U. Can I tell you what's at 14th and U? These horrible, dangerous things called restaurants and bars. And they're doing federal checkpoints. There was a video earlier today that I watched of my former neighborhood, Columbia Heights, chasing out ICE agents because everyone got up into the streets and forced them to leave. The only thing that is making DC unsafe is this, overwrought regime filled with white fascists and racists and terrible authoritarians who think that they are going to pressure, right? These cities that have historically low crime rates. DC is at what, a 30-year historic low in crime? Donald Trump is targeting places where there needs to be no federal presence whatsoever. But why is he doing it? Because he needs to show his force. But here's the thing. If Donald Trump was actually winning, none of this would be necessary. That's the thing that they actually don't want to tell you. You think that Donald Trump would be working overtime right now to rig an election if he thought that the people were behind him? No, he'd be running around the country holding victory rallies, holding Make America Great Again rallies. But they can't even face their own fucking constituents right now because everyone hates them. Everyone, including their once rabid base. Case in point, folks, another good one. Elise Stefanik booed off stage as protesters chant "traitor" during upstate New York memorial event. So take a look at this. Elise Stefanik, Republican New York, rallied against quote unquote radical far left Democrat agitators who disrupted an event in our home district in upstate New York on Monday. Stefanik, a Trump ally who has for months been teasing a Republican campaign for governor of New York, was booed off stage by protesters during an event in Plattsburgh honoring the late John Zerlo, a Clinton County political leader. Today, New York 21 witnessed shameful conduct by radical far-left Democratic agitators who disgracefully attempted to drown out and silence a non-political event. She wrote this broke down message on X. Here's the thing. If you were popular, if people loved what you were doing, you would get the type of response from the public that, let's say, the Obamas get when they cross the fucking street. You would get applause. You would get people throwing flowers at your feet. You would be getting, oh, can I take your picture? Can I take a picture with you? Hold my baby, please. But everyone that comes out against them are some far-right radical. Really? Because we've watched Republicans hold town halls in their own districts and their own constituents in districts that voted 20, 30% for Donald Trump are coming out and saying, what happened to my health care? What are you doing with my Medicaid? I can't afford both my pharmaceutical medicine and my groceries at the same time. I thought you were going to make America great again, and instead, I'm broker than I was 8 months ago. So again, I say this. If what they were doing was popular, Donald Trump would be on a non-stop tour of all 50 states where he would be hailed as a king, where he would be filling stadiums of adoring fans who just are lined up to thank him for how great he has made the country in such a short, miraculous time period. Instead, they are lining the streets to boo his appointees, to jeer him, to show just how pathetic, weak, and small they all are. Stephen Miller apparently went on some giant fucking rant about old white hippies, he said, that showed up with signs to protest. So now it's not enough that you constantly make Black people and brown people your scapegoats. Now, when you see an audience in front of you that is not Black or brown, but it's older white people, now they're all a bunch of ex-hippies. Like, which one is it? Oh, folks, it's just so much. And then take a look at this. I tell you. So it's not enough that these Republicans bend the knee, but as Waj says, also offer verbal fellatio on a regular basis. South Carolina Governor McMaster has deployed National Guard to restore law and order to Washington, D.C. He has sent a couple hundred of his own National Guardsmen to crack down on the federal crimes in D.C. I guess you should just send them directly to the White House, because that's exactly where the federal crime is happening. And I hope that South Carolina isn't hit by some, I don't know, hurricane this hurricane season, because one, you ain't getting any FEMA aid, and two, you dumb idiot have just sent your National Guardsmen that usually help out in national disasters to go what? Be on tour for the National Monument? Y'all, you cannot make up the stupidity that is unfolding right now in this country. Like, it is banana republic nuts wildness that is here. And then we go from here with the federal takeover of Washington, D.C. Where do we go next? Where do you think that the right has now pointed their hateration towards? Brace for impact. Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel. They're now on social media losing their ever-loving minds because Cracker Barrel changed its logo. some idiot wrote, "Go woke, go broke. New DEI hire CEO is rebranding Cracker Barrel to decolonize it." What are you talking about? But why don't we take a listen to the DEI hire CEO herself?
The feedback's been overwhelmingly positive that people like what we're doing. I'll give you another soundbite. I actually happened to be in Orlando last week with all of our managers. We bring them together and every other year. And the number one question that I got asked, Michael, was, how can I get a remodel? When can I get a remodel? How do I get on the list?
Oh, really?
So because the feedback and the buzz is so good, not only from our customers, but from our team members. They want to work in a wonderful restaurant. So we're doing everything for our guests and our team members.
Well, Julie Messino, it's wonderful to have you here.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you again.
Answering those questions for all the Cracker Barrel fans out there. There's a lot of great changes.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Are there a lot of Cracker Barrel fans out there? I guess. I mean, I've only ever seen them littered along the, interstate highways, but, whatever. One of the funniest points, though, was like Cracker Barrel has updated its logo for the first time in 48 years. They got rid of the barrel and the cracker leaning on it. That shouldn't be funny to me, but it kind of is fucking funny. And it is because these people, they run out of outrage material. So now they basically are calling their own wives, their white wives, DEI hires. Do you understand that? Let me just go back to what this person says. New DEI hire. Isn't that your wife, your sister, your mother? So now you don't think that they should have jobs and careers? It's incredible, the psychosis of these people. It doesn't actually ever end. They can't get satiated. So they just continue to pull at anything. Everything is woke. Losing their fucking minds. Oh, it's hilarious to me, honestly, if it wasn't so dumb. But speaking of going woke and going broke, I mean, what we know to be true is that it's actually the opposite. Case in point, where Target finds itself right now. So for the last several months, right, led by Black preachers, led by Black people, activists, Target has hit record lows in profits because everyone and their mother has been boycotting Target, has been boycotting Amazon, much in the same way that folks were boycotting Tesla. And guess what? It's been working. Target CEO Brian Cornwell steps down. Michael Fidelike, whatever his name is, takes over after a weak quarter. The quarter is beyond weak, folks. Target's board of directors has appointed a new chief executive officer to lead the retail giant. The company announced on August 20th. Michael Fidelcakes, Target's current chief operating officer, will succeed Brian Cornwell as chief executive officer, the company said in a release. Cornell, who has served as the company's CEO since 2014, will step down, and Fidelcakes will take over on February 1st. Here's the thing. Why are they having a bad quarter? Why have they been having, bad quarter after quarter after quarter? It's probably because you abandoned your $2 billion diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative. And since that abandonment, you've lost about $13 billion. So you betting on riding the Trump wave, you clearly did not know who your customer base was. And so it is evident to me that these brands that either try to ride the Trump wave, right, or DEI themselves, end up screwing themselves in the long run. Their bottom lines are a mess. All because, guess what? At the end of the day, white nationalism doesn't fucking pay. It actually eats itself. But you know what? Whatever. But I close out today with what I think is just one of the most remarkable stories that I came back to. I will say this. Representative Nicole Collier. Can we just give it up for her for a moment? Can we give it up for her deciding that she was not going to take the Republicans' daddy control over the state and over her movement, and that she was not, as a grown-ass democratically elected woman, that she was not going to sign some permission slip that would then have her trailed by a police officer so that she doesn't leave the state? Can we give it up for Black women consistently putting their body and their voices on the line to show America just how fucked up it is on a regular basis? So here we go. So first off, I want to say that what is happening to her right now is not, right? It is not a protest. She is being held captive. Do you understand me? Held captive by the Republicans in Texas, because the Democrats don't want to go along with their rigged gerrymandering in order to solidify Trump's power and hold on to the House. Because what they do know is that they can't run on the policies that they have, folks. They can't run on the policies because their policies are wildly unpopular. Look at any poll. So you should be able, as a democratically elected representative, to decide to vote for or against. And if a quorum is needed, you can use the power that was invested in you by the people to say, I'm not participating in this fuckery. That should not cost you your freedom. And that is exactly what they have made her make a choice between. Either you're able to leave this chamber if you sign this permission slip that says white Republican Party gets to own you and your movement. Do you understand that? That this is some slave patrol bullshit that is happening right now in the state of Texas. That they have a slave patrol that is said to follow Democratic members who are largely people of color and Black people, to trail them as if they are fucking criminals. Representative Collier said, oh, hell no. So the Fort Worth Democrats spent the night held hostage in the Texas House in protest. Then 4 enraged women, many of them mothers, refused to leave her side overnight. This was the picture that went viral this week, right? And it is absolutely incredible. Because let me tell you something about Black women. Always chosen as the messenger, but oftentimes the Cassandra that no one wants to listen to. But it is this act of defiance, right? She's receiving phone calls from our former Madam Vice President saying, stand strong. The state and the country are behind you. This image will go down in the history that Donald Trump is trying to erase. In a photo posted online, the Fort Worth Democrat is wearing a dark blue eye mask and white and red blankets. They match her Texas flag, which marks a page in the book, African Founders, how enslaved people expanded American ideals. Next to her lies a pink tasseled pillow that reads over a rainbow, "Y'all means all." It's immediately clear. None of these items were placed there by accident. Collier, an attorney, a mother, and the first woman to represent Tarrant County's House District 95 in North Texas, was protesting the decision by the Texas House to order 24/7 monitoring by DPS state troopers of Texas Democrats who broke quorum over the past 2 weeks. More than 50 Democrats left the state last month for Illinois, New York, and Massachusetts to protest racist redistricting efforts by Texas Republicans. In addition to creating 5 more Republican seats in Congress, the Texas GOP's redistricting map would substantially reduce the representation available to Black and brown Texans. Quote, "If I'm telling you that there's 26 seats and there are 11 million white residents, that breaks down to 430,000 white residents per congressional seat," said State Representative Vince Perez, a Democrat from El Paso, according to Houston Public Media. So what does it take for Latinos? Well, there's 1 congressional seat for every 1.2 million Latinos. And there's 1 Black seat for every 2 million Black voters. That's why the value of a Latino resident in Texas is 1/3 of the political power of that of a white resident in Texas delivers. And again, for Black residents in Texas, it's 1/5. Understand the math here and what they are doing. Understand how they are trying to value and limit the value and the worth of Latino votes. And I just want it to ring for you that their ancestors voted to ensure that Black people would only be seen as 3/5 of a person. And now we have 1/5 of a voice. They're doing it in broad daylight, folks. They are doing it in broad fucking daylight. And it doesn't matter whether or not you are in Texas, or whether or not you are in Washington, D.C., or whether or not you were in L.A., where he brought out the tanks there. If they can do it in these places, if they can do it in these legislators, they will do it where you live. There is no buying our way out of fascism. There is no burying our heads in the sand, because it affects everyone everywhere that we are. It is time, I consistently say, for the people to rise up. And we are starting to see the ferocity of some of our representatives going toe to toe with these white nationalists to show the country who these people are and what they are willing to do, to reintroduce slave patrol laws, to redo and re-whiten history, to punish those that dare to speak up against them. And all the while, again, if they were winning, if what they were doing was popular, you would not need to move in the insecure, fragile ways that you are moving. It's giving little dick energy. So, folks, I am going to end here today, but I want to open up because I have not been able to do a Town Hall Tuesday in some time. So for the next 15 minutes, dear friends, for those of you that are new here, I open up the floor to all of you to ask whatever questions that you would like to ask. I just ask that you type question in capital letters followed by your question. It is Wednesday, but we are going to do Town Hall Tuesday because why the hell not? So let's get into it. So while I wait and look around for questions, oh, this is a fun one. Question: why do you think there aren't more Black women that are head coaches with the WNBA? Many would be more than qualified. No disrespect to Coach Brondello or Coach Reeve. It's the same reason why we don't see a lot of Black women CEOs, because Black women are not trusted to lead, regardless of whether or not you are an expert player, right, and have been put out and said, like Lisa Leslie, I'm interested in coaching and want this job, but you were overlooked for another white man to take the position. Like to me, what happens in the WNBA is like reverse DEI, because I don't see any amount of women in the NBA coaching the way that the WNBA welcomes in male coaches and white coaches. So those are my thoughts. Thank you for that question. Oh, Gus, thank you so much. Question: did you have a good break, Danielle? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And I told folks earlier today on Substack with Waj, when I travel, I do not tell people where I am for safety reasons. I will say that I'm away, I'm abroad, but I did have a great deal of fun and gain a lot of perspective being in Europe the last couple of weeks, visiting friends and just taking a break. But yes, it was wonderful. I ate a lot of great food. I drank a lot of delicious wine, and saw America through an entirely different lens. So thank you so much for that question. Have you heard about Arkansas State Act 797 that passed a few weeks ago? It directs official state documents to henceforth refer to Judea and Samaria instead of Israeli West Bank. No, but I have not heard of that, and I will look into it. But let me tell you something about what's happening in Arkansas as it pertains to this whites-only community that they are building out. Lord, oh Lord, are white people not showing their whole asses right now? And they're doing so because they believe that this federal government will protect them, and I'm certain that they will. But that's something that will be a conversation for another day. Jules, question: will he destroy the African American Museum artifacts? Yes, he is giving them back to the different sources so that they are no longer held in one place, and so you can no longer travel to Washington, D.C. to go to this museum to have one beautiful space for your history. And for the other museums, he is just defunding them one by one by one to erase our history on top of what he's doing to public education. This is what fascism looks like. Do you know how much we missed you? If not, we can fill you in. Thank you, Trash Panda Logic. I appreciate that so very much. I missed you all as well. You give wisdom. You give so much of yourself to us here. Are there any charities you support? Yes, I'm actually in charity. I'm on the board of the Ms. Foundation for Women. And I've been on the board of the Ms. Foundation for several years now. And it is an organization that I care very deeply about, that does work of grassroots support for Black women and girls, for repro justice, work for just incredible endeavors to lift up Black women and girls around the country and women in general. And so if you don't know about the Ms. Foundation, I would absolutely encourage you to check them out. As a former teacher, what do you think of the governor of Oklahoma saying New York and California teachers wanting to teach there, who would, need to take a test to prove they're not woke? I mean, who the fuck wants to teach in Oklahoma? I mean, what number is Oklahoma right now in terms of the rankings of education? Like, and I'm certain that if your ranking is super low, guess what? I'm pretty sure you're not paying your teachers either. So I'm not quite sure who's moving from New York or California to go rush to teach in Oklahoma. Maybe they should take a test to see if they could pass an American citizenship test. I guarantee you they wouldn't. How do the people organize a national strike? A very good question. There are so many organizations right now, 5501 Movement, Indivisible, and others that put on marches every single quarter, every single month, it seems. How do folks organize a national strike? I've been calling on union members and union leaders from the auto industry, teachers union, and others to collectively organize. I think that civil rights organizations should also be leading the effort to have a day, a week, a month, follow alongside of the civil rights and the Montgomery bus boycott, and recognize that in order to get change in this country, you're going to have to shut the country down. There are organizations, there are leaders that need to work together instead of just saving their own siloed necks, because that is not going to work. It's either we're going to have collective care or we're going to have fascism, because we can't have anything in between. Question. How do Dems move forward when folks like Hillary go on air and state that Trump's foreign policies was right on track? Did she do that? I might have missed that, Erica. I'll have to look into that. But I mean, how do we move forward when we have status quo Democrats who, like, I don't know, are trying to lift up Andrew Cuomo to run for as an independent, as opposed to backing Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani? You know, like, you have to understand who is vested in the status quo and who the crumbs that they give us benefit. So did she go on air and say that? I pray that that is false. Don't Democratic states need to do extra seat redistricting to keep up? Yes, that's the whole battle that's been going on right now between Newsom, who's adding, I think, 7 seats to California to combat what Texas is doing. It essentially will make Texas's redrawing moot because California has more people, and you know, and basically those 7 districts will likely be Democratic. I think that other states need to follow the same path. We're not going to vote our way out of this. So if they're going to make moves that are outright about stealing elections, then until we do away with gerrymandering altogether, then Democrats need to get on board and follow with what Gavin Newsom has been doing. Come clean, Danielle. Were you house hunting overseas? No, not on this trip. But I have been talking about the fact that I am very open to splitting my time between the US and living abroad. Like, the way that my nervous system reset while I was away was even shocking to me. And I know that many people do not have the privilege or the access to be able to do so. But if you are able to take those breaks for a bit, I highly encourage you to do so, because like I said earlier today with Waj, actually with Jared, is that even the wellness self-care measures that I have been taking, meditation, St. John's wort, working out, connecting with friends, meditating, spending time with family, does not combat the absolute insanity that we are being forced to live in all the time. And so I say to folks, you know, we've been fed a lie about American exceptionalism and the American dream. There is a better way to live. And I encourage those people that do have the ability to travel. And if you don't, then just research, just like look, because the way that other people live around the world and are thriving and not just surviving will shock you as to why we've been fed this hyper capitalistic grind mentality that gives us high carceral rates, high diabetes, like, impossible housing to pay for, a broke down healthcare system, et cetera, et cetera. So am I entertaining the idea? Absolutely. Will I ever leave the work that I do? No. But will I take breaks so that I don't lose my fucking mind? Absolutely. This is an interesting question. Do you think that the black and brown football and baseball players need to refuse to play for now because of all the racism being done to our black and brown brothers and sisters? Yes and no. I think that what we like to tell ourselves is that every black and brown person that is successful somehow is an activist. And that is not the truth. They're capitalist driven, just like their white counterparts. And so just because you happen to be a black person or a brown person and have reached some modicum of success in your professional sport does not necessarily mean that you are an advocate or an activist. And we've seen that time and time again. And so do I think that they should do more, those that do have platforms and actually are informed? Absolutely. But do I ever think that there's going to be a collective of people that will do so? No, because I think that a lot of them also are very, very, very young, and very, very undereducated. Those are my thoughts. Last question. And I will say this. Yes, Daryl, how about them Liberty ladies? Yes. For those of you who follow me, know that one of my other newfound passions is the WNBA, and my team is the New York Liberty. And it was a game last night. Against the Minnesota Lynx, who are our rivals. And the Lady Liberty put up an incredible game and won by 10 points last night. So Daryl, thank you for that, because it was a big win. It was a win that we needed. And it was exciting. So, all right, my friends, that is it for me today here on the Danielle Moodie Show. I want to end today with just such deep gratitude for the kindness and grace that all of you have shown me when I've needed to reschedule shows and cancel shows, one, to take care of myself and to rest, but also to try and be able to also enjoy the time that I was away. And I really appreciate all of the well wishes that you gave me, and the comments that you posted. They really mean a lot, because I think that, I'm a child of immigrants, and hard work is what we do. And there have been times throughout my career where I have given 250% and nearly harmed myself, right? With illness and sickness. And so I take my care very seriously, and I take breaks very seriously. And I hope that I can, by virtue of me taking breaks, model for all of you the importance of also giving yourself grace and taking breaks as well. So I just want to say, thank you so much for the support. And then, as always, this is independent media, folks, and I am working tirelessly to get us to 30,000 subscribers. And I just want to say so much, thank you so much to the folks that chip in and support independent media. Ernest, as always, Myra, Shirley, as always, Susan coming in strong, not only moderating, but always giving a few dollars. E. Schwartz, as always, Kim, Fran, Trash Panda, as always, April, Susan again, Ernst again, Electron, Joyce, Jules, Be Best, Starchild, Susan again, SHK, and K Panda with the Canadian dollars. It all goes a long way to allowing me the ability to do the work that I do. And I just appreciate each and every single one of you, each and every single dollar. So I will be back tomorrow, dear friends, 5 p.m. Eastern. As always, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. See you tomorrow. Be well.